Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Coach Aly, and I wanted to create a video that gave you just a little bit of background about me, my story, my recovery journey, and how I can help you leave the struggle of insomnia and anxiety behind. So if you're new to my channel, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Follow along for content, educational videos, and support. I'm here for you. I've been where you're at. I've gone through this journey and I've come out the other side, and I want to just say to you that you're in the right place. I can help you, and I'm so glad that you decided to tune in today. So just a little bit of background about me. I want to share a little bit about my story and just give you a little bit of information about what insomnia is. And if you're in this journey right now, you already know, but it might be a little bit different than you think. And so it's worth just defining insomnia. How it started for me was travel. I was traveling and I had a sleepless night and I didn't think much about that. And then I had another trip and I had another sleepless night. And then I really started to freak out. And I, immediately tried all the natural things. Acupuncture and reflexology and chiropractic and gosh, you name it, like the alternative route. I went first and nothing was kind of touching it. And then not long after that, I went the medical route, went and saw my GP, got on some sleep medication and thought that I had found the cure. I was prescribed Ambien, and I was on that for close to a year, 8 to 9 months before it kind of wasn't doing it anymore. It wasn't working. And so then I found myself in a real pickle and started to really panic and thought, wow, there's something really wrong with me because this isn't even working, right? So I must be really broken. Something's really, really wrong. So I panicked, called the doctor, said this isn't working. Something's really wrong now. And they gave me another med to try. And at this point, I had actually tried several meds. But this med that they had me try, I was in such a state of hyperarousal, such a state of just worry and almost panic that, as we'll learn, and you may already know, if the hyperarousal is really high, if anxiety is really high, it can override anything we throw at it, any med we throw at it. So there's always a misconception that it's the med that isn't working, but it's actually that our hyperarousal and our survival system that has this in place to actually protect us from danger, that survival response is stronger than any med that we could throw at it. And I did not know this at the time. So I just thought, nothing's working. I'm completely broken because, these really kind of strong medications aren't touching it. So, wow, I'm really in big trouble now. So this other med that they tried for me when Ambien stopped being effective was Seroquel, which is very common meds that people try. And like I said, I was in such a state of utter panic and overwhelm that nothing could have touched it at this point. And I ended up having, full-blown panic attack and going to the ER. They were not helpful. Gave me a shot of another really strong, sedative that did not help, and I actually had some sort of an allergic response too, unfortunately. And then the next day, I ended up going to the mental health crisis center because I was just beside myself with worry and panic and fear. I was terrified. They were very kind and compassionate at the mental health center. And I was there for, under 24 hours, but pretty much a full day. And I had the option of staying there or going home. Basically, it was, we're going to give you a med every hour until you're out to kind of see what will do the trick. I was really, really afraid of medication. I was really afraid of all the meds. That ended up being a very big part of my recovery journey, is dealing with the fears I had around meds themselves. I see this in the people I work with as well. It's one of the number one fears, and it can just kind of perpetuate this struggle even more. That was the case for me. But when I went into this mental health center, they were actually incredibly compassionate and kind, and they really did help. In the long run, looking back, I know that it was a helpful thing, because I started to have a little bit of a hope going there, because they were so kind and compassionate. They did not understand insomnia the way I understand it now, but their kindness was really, really helpful at that time when I thought I was just, headed for the end. I did have a conversation with the doctor there, and I was so terrified of the meds. I remember saying, I don't want any more meds. I'm so scared of the meds, the med. And I remember this doctor saying to me, okay, let's just take a beat and put this in perspective. So you would rather leave this earth, you would rather die than take a med that has the potential to help you possibly save your life. When it was said back to me in that way, I realized how distorted, how crazy my thinking had become. I was not thinking clearly. I was in a state of absolute terror. And when it was said back to me in that way, I realized how much that was the case. And I said, gosh, when you put it like that, that sounds really, really crazy, really out there. I definitely need to look at this and let the meds help me. And they did. That was the start of my journey of working with, dealing with my fears and making peace around the meds. It took a lot of time. That was just the very tip of the iceberg. But I did decide that I would give that a go. And not long after that, I found help through the Sleep Coach School. And you might know me from that channel. I've made content and created a series on that called Aly's Take, and still work with the Sleep Coach School. You can still find me there. And I work with the immunity program, and I also have my own private practice seeing one-on-one clients, which I'm loving. And I've been doing quite a lot of in the last couple of years. So my point in telling you all of that history is not to scare you. It is to tell you that I know how dark it can get. And I know that as dark as it can get, there is a way out. The way out is through. The way out is understanding. It's education. It is self-kindness. It is courage. And it is the right support. This is not the end of the story. This is actually just the beginning, right? This is a chapter of your life, but it is not the whole story. You will find your way out of this. I want to give you that hope right away, because I've been there and I know this journey, and I know that there's a way out, and I know you can get there because I did. And if I can do this, I believe anybody can do this. There's nothing special about me. I've been where you are, so I'm here to support you along the way. So I just want to give you that little nutshell background of my journey, just so that you understand that I really do know what this struggle is. I've definitely been in your shoes. So let's talk a little bit about what insomnia is. And, you might be asking this question, how did I get here? How did this happen, right? I remember feeling that so vividly. First of all, we need to understand what insomnia is, because the definition that you find online, or like in the DSM-3 or 4 or 5, I don't even know how many there are now, but is really not an accurate description of what insomnia is. It's basically if you have trouble staying asleep or falling asleep for 3 months, then you have insomnia. That doesn't tell us anything about what it actually is, right? So how we develop insomnia is really based on our responses and reactions to not sleeping. And what happens is our brain misidentifies being awake as dangerous because we have reacted in a way that says, this is not okay, something is wrong, I shouldn't be awake, And so the brain jumps on board to protect us from this perceived danger. And before long, we have a loop. And this is a self kind of perpetuated struggle, but it's happening on its own now. It is a conditioned fear or stress response that kind of keeps going now on its own. It's automatic, right? It is a loop. So every time we try to sleep, we are sort of pummeled with this hyperarousal. Hyperarousal is what keeps this cycle going. And this hyperarousal really is the fear that perpetuates the struggle. We're afraid of our experience around being awake. So there's lots of things that happen when we find ourselves awake at night when we would rather be asleep. There's a lot of anxiety and fear and dread and worry. And all of this triggers a protective response in our nervous system. And this is by design, because if there was actually something very dangerous, that we were being confronted with, our nervous system would kick in to protect us from this danger, right? But it isn't a perfect system. And it gets its messages and its understanding of what is dangerous from our reactions and our responses, right? And so this is how there can be a misunderstanding. And it can misunderstand or misidentify so many things as dangerous, as threats that are not, including our own internal experience. So our own emotions of anxiety, of fear, can be perceived as dangerous and keep us, unfortunately, in this perpetuated conditioned response. So it's kind of a paradox here, right? But the good news here is it is really a learned response, right? It's conditioned. Conditioned just means it's learned. And so what we can learn, we can unlearn, or maybe more accurately, we can relearn. So this is not something that is forever. Our brain has this amazing ability to create new neural networks, right? It's called neuroplasticity. And from the moment we're born until the moment we die, our brain is constantly learning and it's constantly forming new connections, right? And so we have this ability to create new pathways, new neural networks. And this is how recovery works. This is how recovery takes place, because we can show the brain, we can teach the brain that the experience of being awake at night, although it is uncomfortable, it is not dangerous. The feelings that accompany being awake at night, the anxiety and the fear, those too are very uncomfortable, but they're not dangerous. There's also physical sensations. There's also the thoughts, right? Rumination, catastrophic thinking, distorted thinking. All of this is part of the insomnia experience. These two are misidentified as dangerous, which keeps them in a perpetual loop as well. So it all goes together, and we can teach the brain that all of this is safe to experience, albeit uncomfortable. What essentially happens here is that the brain misidentifies discomfort in general as being dangerous. And it is decidedly not. Discomfort is uncomfortable, but it isn't life-threatening and it isn't dangerous. And so when we go through this journey of recovery, we really work on building capacity to tolerate some discomfort a little at a time so it doesn't overwhelm us, but we kind of move towards this discomfort in tolerable steps to show the brain that it is actually safe to experience. It's safe to feel afraid. It's safe to feel anxiety. It's just not preferred. But over time, what this does is it lets the brain know that it is a safe experience, and it rewires, or it doesn't actually rewire, it creates a new wiring, that of safety, that of this is okay. It's safe to experience, right? And this is how recovery happens. And so this next kind of piece that I want to share, and I already touched on here a little bit, does it ever end? Can I get better? Definitively, yes, absolutely. It ends. This is not your forever. This is a chapter in your story. It is not the end. It is not the entire book, right? This is just one chapter. And it does end. This is temporary. That is a big thing to know here. This is not your forever. Can I get better? Yes. 100% yes. I am here living proof to tell you that that is possible, and I can help you, on your way there, on your journey. This next point here, and I remember feeling kind of what do I do now? Now that I kind of understand this concept, I understand what's happening in my brain, because that's a really important piece, demystifying this whole experience. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. Your brain is not broken. It is just acting on this misidentified, this misunderstanding that being awake at night is dangerous, right? It is acting on that premise. But we can teach it that it's perfectly safe and okay and not dangerous. And this is how, recovery happens. So what are my next steps? What can you do now? This education part is big, and there's so many resources out there, free resources online that you can educate yourself. The Sleep Coach channel being one of those. My dear friend Beth Kindle, who has an amazing podcast, Mind, Body, Sleep. That is an incredible resource. The Sleep Coach School and Beth have wonderful programs that are group programs that you can join. The immunity program is under the Sleep Coach School. I teach under that program. And you can be in that program as long or as, short of time as you want, but you will get all the education you need. There's amazing coaches out there that offer one-on-one support. I'm, of course, one of those coaches. And there is so much free video content online, this channel being one of those resources. I know that this is possible. So please, please, please don't give up hope. Do not give up. This is going to take a bit of time. It is going to take more time than any of us want, because that is just the nature of neuroplasticity in the brain changing, is it does take time, right? It takes repetition. It takes consistency, but mostly it takes self-kindness. It takes us understanding that we are human, and that we are going to go between states during our recovery, internal states. So what helps the most to understand is that it is the fight, it is the resistance to the emotional experience that we're having that actually creates the struggle. So when I'm fighting and I'm resisting my experience, the reality of what is happening, and I'm trying to escape it, and I'm trying to fight it, and I'm, this is not okay. This should not be happening. Something's really wrong. That's resistance, right? That confirms danger to the brain. But when we understand what's happening, and we can really understand that this is all just a big misunderstanding, right? Then we can start to teach the brain a new way. We can start to soften into, okay, this is uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. It's not the end of the world. It's not life-threatening. It's 100% not. So over time, what this translates to is really big changes. And I can tell you from the outside now, it was a journey that it took a lot of time, but gosh, was it worth it? My feeling within me now is like anchored in peace, is anchored in I'm okay. I know that there's going to be challenges. I know that there's going to be ups and downs, because life is full of those. But I know now I can handle what comes my way. I have this capacity, right? I've gained this capacity. And that doesn't mean I'm going to be perfectly, regulated all the time or not get afraid ever again. No, I have a nervous system. I'm going to respond to things like all humans do. But I know now that I'm not going to spiral for days. I know how to come back. I know that I have the capacity to be okay, to tolerate some discomfort. That is huge. So there's a lot of talk about nervous system regulation and nervous system stuff right now, and yes, this is part of it, right? Our nervous system is obviously a kind of chronically in fear mode. It's in a survival mode when we go through an experience like this. And that's a very uncomfortable place to be. But it is not forever. Again, all of this together is about opening up, having some willingness to try a new way, And that is really where the journey starts. So if you are ready, if you do need support, I am here for you. You are welcome to reach out, text, email, message, DM, whatever works for you. And I am happy to get with you one-on-one so we can start your healing journey. Either way, whatever you choose your next step, know that you are not alone. I've been there. I've walked in your shoes, and you are going to get through this. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that it's helpful. I hope that it gives you some level of being aware that it's going to be okay, that it's not your forever. That was my goal today. You're going to be okay. Thanks for being here. I'm here for support. Reach out if I can help.